Today we have a recap on a horror movie titled The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Spoilers alert. Enjoy the video. Beginning of the movie, we see a cardiologist named Steven who is operating on a heart of a patient. We see the beating heart. After finishing the surgery, we see him talking to an anesthesiologist about watches. Scene cuts and we see Steven meeting a boy in a diner. The kid's name was Martin. Steven asks Martin about his life, school, and Steven appears as a guiding figure in Martin's life. He even gifted Martin the watch he was talking about with the anesthesiologist. Martin hugs Steven as a gesture of gratitude. Steven is seen having dinner with his family. His son Bob asks Steven if he could go to a party with his sister. Steven says he can go only if he cuts his hair. Before going to bed, Steven's wife Anna tells him that he should let Bob go to the party. Steven tells Anna that he meets a boy named Martin every now and then. He even says that Martin wants to be a cardiologist. They both have sexual intercourse in a weird way. First, Anna lies on a bed like she was dead, then Steven masturbates and continues kissing her. Next day during evening, Anna and Steven go to a conference where Steven gives a speech. We see that when offered a drink, he doesn't drink a cocktail. Steven meets Martin and invites him for a dinner. Martin takes some flowers with him and we see Martin is a weird guy. During their conversation, we come to know that his father died 10 years ago in an accident, and now he lives with his mother. Martin hangs out with Steven's daughter Kim and his son Bob. Martin asks them to tell him about themselves. Kim tells him that she sings in a choir. Kim and Martin go for a walk. Kim sings for him and they start having feelings for each other. Later, while returning home from the hospital, Steven sees Martin stalking him. Martin invites Steven to his house for a dinner. Steven agrees. After finishing the dinner, Martin tells Steven that he would like to watch his father's favorite movie with him. So, they watch it together. Martin says he is tired and leaves for his bed, leaving Steven and his mom alone. She says her husband was his patient and remembers him from them. She takes his hand suddenly in her hand and says Steven has beautiful hands. She then starts kissing his hands and sucking on the finger. Steven finds it weird and he leaves. After a few days, we see Steven and Anna at a barbecue at his friend's house. Martin repeatedly calls Steven and tells him that he is at their usual diner and wants to meet him. Steven says he can't, he is busy. Next day early in the morning, we see Bob was late for his school. Steven tells him to get out of his bed, but Bob says he cannot move his legs. He cannot feel his legs. Both Anna and Steven rush him to the hospital and they do a neurological checkup on Bob. Nothing came after the checkup and suddenly Bob could walk again. After leaving Steven, Anna and Bob were walking towards the exit. Bob loses his sensation and falls to the floor. Bob gets admitted to the hospital. Next day, Martin visits him. Bob did not seem happy about it. Martin tells Steven to meet in the cafeteria and tells him that he shouldn't desert him like the day before. Martin says that his father died because of Steven, so he sees Steven as a killer. He says that since Steven killed a member of Martin's family member, now Steven has to kill one from his own family. If he doesn't do it, all his family members will die. First, they will lose their senses in their legs and they would starve themselves by refusing to eat, and they would bleed from their eyes, and finally they would die within hours. Steven shoves Bob's favorite donut in his mouth as he refused to eat anything. We see Martin and Kim getting closer to each other. During the choir practice, we see Kim's legs become senseless like Bob's and she collapses. She is admitted in the same hospital as Bob and she too refuses to eat anything. The doctors run multiple tests on them and conclude that there was nothing wrong with them. Anna was getting more and more sad about her kids, so Steven tells Anna about his conversation with Martin. She asks if he drank any alcohol while operating on Martin's father. He says he might have, but when a patient dies on the operating tables, it's never the surgeon's fault. It's always caused by a mistake of the anesthesiologist. Anna meets the anesthesiologist and he says that Steven had 2 drinks before operating on Martin's father. He says when a patient dies on the table, it's never the anesthesiologist's fault but a fault of the surgeon. He makes Anna do a hand job for him as a payment for the information. After a few days, Kim gets a phone call from Martin. He tells her to stand up and come to the window as he wants to see her through the parking lot. She then walks straight to the window, but she couldn't see Martin. She returns to her bed and now again her legs become senseless right after hanging up the phone. Anna goes to meet Martin and Martin says he thinks that Steven killed his dad. Anna says why she and her children have to suffer for Steven's mistake. Martin says that after his father's death, Steven flirts with his mother and he thinks they would be perfect for each other. They bring their children home and know about the Martin's words. They all try to get in good side of Steven to avoid getting killed. Even Bob cuts his hair and says he wants to be a cardiologist just like his father. Steven takes Anna to the basement where he kept Martin tied up with tapes and had multiple cuts and bruises all over him. Steven beats Martin so that he would stop all these. After Steven and Anna went to the bed, Kim drags herself down the basement and asks Martin to fix her and they should run away together. Steven and Anna, they could not find Kim anywhere in the house. They even went to the basement, she wasn't even there. They ask Martin about her, but he says nothing. Steven asks Martin what did he do to her and he again says nothing. They search for Anna around the neighborhoods and they find Anna dragging herself with her legs bleeding. Anna says she went down the basement and had set Martin free. Bob's eyes have started bleeding. Now it was Steven's decision. He taped his family members' mouths shut and puts a pillow cover on their face and seats them in the living room. He then takes a gun and covers his own eyes with a beanie hat. He then spins around multiple times shooting, but only the furnitures were shot. After some time we see blood trickling from Bob's neck. Now we see Steven, Anna, and Kim sitting at the diner where Martin and Steven used to meet each other. Martin walks inside the diner and they all get up and leave, and the movie ends. Tell me, what do you think about the movie in the comment section? If you like the movie, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.